called Paranormal Activity. So unexpected failures of serverless applications. A cool story here as well from 3 years ago now. So we had a concurrent execution limit that we accidentally reached in 2018. And basically what happened that we didn't think too much about it. We had like a test that we were doing for like one small feature. But this feature had a lambda function that basically, when it starts, it spins up another version or calls another version of itself and then does a long-running process. So the idea was that you get like a patch of like 100 or something SQS list items in the call, and then it recursively calls each one of them up in the same function, which was obviously like not the optimal way to do it at all. And basically what happened was that basically as soon as we deployed it, we reached into the limit, and none of the other functions could actually execute across the entire stack. So basically we were down for 4 hours. Luckily, it was just like a really, really early stage in our journey. I don't think we had a lot of users at all back then. And it took us quite a long time to actually figure it out, like why is nothing working. So that was nice. We didn't use this kind of a pattern at all. You shouldn't use it, but there are a lot of variations of when something similar can happen actually in serverless or just in the cloud. So a great story. But yeah, lots of things can happen. Most common is human error. Obviously, people make mistakes. We made the endless recursive loop, but we've made endless amounts of typos and logical mistakes ever since in our engineering team. And I think everyone does those things on a daily basis. We've also had a couple of third-party service failures, but those have been like really few and far between. Really rarely AWS goes down. Other infrastructure that you might rely on goes down. Vendors or third-party services just fail. But yeah, it's not too common, but it does happen. And this causes like unexpected activity or just something that you cannot understand at all. But usually it will work itself out. And we've seen also unexpected user behavior, something you didn't expect at all to happen. In our case, a couple of times, people are looking at the API requests that the UI makes, and then are just like playing around with it, playing around with the API, and yeah, things can just break. Not anymore. Again, this in our case was years ago, but yeah, unexpected things do happen. Also attacks. Yeah, if you're building something that's worthwhile, if you have users, sooner or later you will get some sort of abuse and attacks coming your way, and this has happened to us. We haven't been like nothing has ever gone through, but we have had attempts at least, which is also interesting, but nothing too bad. Just be very so how to avoid and defend against those things. Good thing is obviously development and staging environments. I would say those catch 80% of the things that the self-inflicted things that can happen. Also, we're a big believer of end-to-end testing, health checks. Q&A, not so much because it's difficult to kind of implement in a young company, but we are doing our best. Built-in redundancy. So if one third-party service breaks, have a redundant one or something that you can fall back on is hugely important for like business critical things. Obviously, monitoring and alerting. I have 2 slides about that real quickly as well. Security and reliability reviews. So we've had our infrastructure reviewed by AWS solution architects multiple times. We've gone through SOC 2 audits that look at the infrastructure, like every inch of it and how things are working. It's super useful to do those at least twice a year, we would say, and have an incident plan, have a plan to recover, make sure everybody knows, learn from mistakes, learn from incidents, and try to get better every time. So this happens to be something that we focus on a lot. I hope it's not too much of a product plug. Basically, we try to protect as a service for all like things you don't expect for. So we analyze all of the logs on the fly that your application creates, and then we detect any sort of events that look bad. And like we do that without you ever having to do anything. It doesn't have any kind of impact to your infrastructure as well. As soon as you onboard Dashboard to your AWS, you get that out of the box. The other thing we do is we check metrics on the fly at all times across all of the different services. And we give you warnings and kind of alarms when something is not working. For instance, if you hit the concurrency limit, or you're close to a concurrency limit, or you're going to run out of disk space, or whatever might happen, timeouts, etc. The other thing we do to help our customers with this is we scan the infrastructure for if they're well architected or not. So we check for inefficiencies, check for things that might be a security risk, reliability risk that might break, that you're wasting your time, that are too slow, or just bad posture. And we give you a list of things that you can improve. Thank you. Any questions? So we have somebody raised their hand, but I'm just learning the ropes. Okay.
Yeah, I think I got one. It says, Tavi, how is data stored in Dashboard, and how do I know if that data is secure? From anonymous attendee.
Yep. So the data stored in Dashboard is encrypted at rest, and yeah, we store it in different data stores depending on what we're storing. We're storing metrics, we're storing metadata of invocations. So those are just like the memory usage, the duration, those kinds of things that that don't have really any like value to anybody else outside the organization. And we store the logs in Elasticsearch. I think now it's called something else. And yeah, everything is encrypted. For enterprise customers or customers that are super sensitive, we offer like single tenant hosting as well. So all of their data is stored at a separate AWS account, encrypted at rest. And pretty soon we're also introducing customer managed keys as well. I think the other question as well is any strategies on keeping the logs and not paying the huge bill for CloudWatch logs. Depends on which logs you're storing. So for a lot of, like I think it gets really bad with API Gateway, for instance, because it has 20 lines of logs for one API request if you enable everything. So those kinds are just like, you can't do much. You just don't need to log out it in production on the noisiest API endpoints. At least not all of the time, just log out the errors, things like that. I would say that in production, like don't log out too much. If just log out the failures, like what you absolutely need to know, That's the cleanest way. In staging, in development stages, you can log out more, and there's way to do it programmatically as well. So if it's in development, then it logs out more. If it's not, then it doesn't.